Sefer Devarim, Parshat Devarim on fairness in judgment. This week we open the book of Deuteronomy, the final book of the Torah, and the only one written primarily from the first-person perspective of Moshe. Taking place 39 years in the 11th month into the Israelites' wandering as they are about to enter the promised land, it begins. Eile hadavarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden. These are the words that Moshe addressed to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan. Moshe recounts how back in the book of Exodus, early in his tenure as a leader, the Israelite people had become too numerous for him to manage on his own. So he needed to appoint judges. Now Moshe reiterates the instructions he gave to those judges, saying, "Hear out your fellow Israelites and decide justly between one party and the other, be it a fellow Israelite or a stranger. You shall not be partial in judgment. Hear out low and high alike. Fear neither party, for judgment is God's. And any matter that is too difficult for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it." Friends, here we learn a critical foundational principle of a just judicial system. Justice must be, so to speak, blind, or shall we say, impartial. A system that plays favorites is definitionally not just. The medieval French commentator Rashi said The medieval French commentator Rashi paid particular attention to the words, "hear out low and high, great and small alike." One meaning he took from the verse was the obvious one, that a judge must treat the rich and poor equally. However, he also said it means we must treat equally cases dealing with great and small amounts of money. We can see the relevance of this precept, especially today when it's convenient for a wealthy person or a massive company to sue others for large sums of money. But for example, a person who loses $200 in wage theft has no affordable means of recourse, even though that income might be crucial for that person to feed themselves and their family. The Midrash Sifrei Devarim applies the obligation of fairness in judgment not only to legal cases, but also to the appointment of the judges themselves. It tells us, one should not say, "Mr. So-and-so is a fine or strong man, I will make him a judge. Mr. So-and-so is my relative, I will make him a judge in the city," while in reality, he's not an expert in the laws, and consequently, he will condemn the innocent and acquit the guilty. No considerations for the appointment of judges can be given besides proper expertise and competence. This midrash additionally teaches about the seriousness of the role of the judge as public servant. It imagines Moshe telling them, "It is not now as it was before. Until now, you were your own masters. Now you are in the service of the community." The medieval philosopher Moses Maimonides identified 3 mitzvot tied to this passage in Deuteronomy: not to show special courtesy to a great individual, not to be afraid of a bad individual, not to appoint as a judge a person who is not well versed in the laws, even if he is an expert in other branches of knowledge. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, the 18th and 19th century Hasidic leader, taught that these rules of judgment apply not only to actual judges, but to each person in their everyday life. Likutei Maharan relates, when a person sits down to talk about another person, it is a day of judgment, for they sit in judgment of their fellow. A person must be very careful about this. They have to take a good look at themselves and ask if they are fit to pass judgment on their fellow, for judgment belongs to God. Rabbi Nachman then references Hillel, the elders, saying in Pirkei Avot, do not judge your fellow until you have reached their place. The broader value here is that we all need to take stands on matters of justice. Whether it is in criminal cases or how we view our obligations to the downtrodden among us, such as immigrants or our neighbors experiencing homelessness. And what is crucial for us to remember is not to do what is popular, but what is right. We learn from the beginning of Deuteronomy that we cannot fall into the ideological trappings of automatically siding with someone based upon their stature or power. It is the job of the judge, and we all serve as judges in one way or another, to remove bias and work toward a system that is fair to all parties. It is not that we shouldn't advocate for the weakest and most marginalized among us. The commandment specifically demands that we establish a system of equality. But in a world that often deems bias in favor of the privileged and powerful to be fair, we cannot forget the commandment to, as Maimonides put it, not show special courtesy to a great individual, or in the words of Moshe, hear out high and low alike. May we be blessed to have such strength and wisdom. Shabbat Shalom.